for the next hour or so. And I do have Loretta here on the line. Welcome into DIY Soul, Exploring Your Inner Self. I just want to let you guys know that this is a new podcast format that we're going to be working with here at Celestial Intersections Radio. We've always been doing the Alchemy Annex, which is still planned as scheduled, and we'll be alternating those shows in between DIY Soul. The difference between them is that DIY Soul is really short for dialing into your soul. So, what we're talking about is the spiritualized components of everyday living skills, how that manifests for you, and more importantly, what that looks like in the context of Uranian astrology. So it's going to be sort of an infomercial for anybody who's interested in the work that we do with astrology, because it's going to say, hey, look at all of these great things that you can do. What does that look like in your personal chart? So it's meant to be more of a conversational format. And then the Alchemy Annex is our podcast, of course, that is dedicated to what happens in the universe when you decide to step outside of yourself and create personal growth, and how you can achieve the things that you really want in life just by looking outside of yourself. That's what that show is all about. And we're going to be alternating between those two formats here on this here at Celestial Intersections Radio, talking about these things every other week. So that our next show will be an Alchemy Annex, and then in 2 weeks again, you'll have another episode of DIY Soul. The last day of every month, regardless of when that is, from 7 to 8 p.m., that will be our free reading show. So if you have a question for us about whatever issue, be sure to catch us on the last day of the month from 7 to 8 p.m. Arizona's time, and we will get you in for those free questions. But other than that, on our podcast format, we're going to be doing generals that stick with the subject matter. So if you try to direct the conversation to get in your question that's totally unrelated to what we're talking about, we're just not going to take it, because we're in our program. We have to really keep on subject here to make sure that we can finish within that hour time slot that we're given. It's not a whole lot of time to work with. But if you do want those personal questions answered because you just can't wait until the last day of the month, then remember that, you can always go out and buy a front of the line pass for $10, or now we have, you can a package of 3 for $25. Those credits never expire, so they always stay on your account. You can use them whenever you'd like and ask whatever question you want, even though it may not necessarily be within the framework or the context of what we're talking about on the podcast that day. By buying a front of the line pass, then that way you can ask any question of your choice. So it kind of gets past the gatekeeper of that system that we have here. Now, I'm very excited for you today because we are going to be talking about exploring your inner self in particular. And what's unique about this subject, the show today, is we're going to be talking about exploring your inner self as the foundation for personal growth and psychic development. So, Veretta, just from that alone, because that's a pretty big statement, what is the takeaway about exploring your inner self? What's if there's nothing else that we learn in today's podcast, what is the one thing that everybody should walk home with today?
Well, so there's a lot of steps and a lot of information to go along with, the complex issues. But exploring your higher self has to do with authenticity. It has to do with you being real. You have to be, you have to own your stuff. You have to be able to be transparent about it. You have to be able to carry it at a specific level all the time, not just when you want something. But exploring your inner self has more to do with getting past the pain of all the things that have ever happened to you and get down to that core self to understand, in the medical sense, what's going on, and also in the metaphysical self, what's going on. We have two different styles of knowledge there. And so I would say be sure when you're dialing into self that it's truly you. It's not ego. Ego will be there because it's based on your soul staying here. And also having the ability to recognize, kind of have faith, I guess, recognize when there is something more out there, bigger than you. And the minute you realize that, then you can backtrack the core of self and start designing a new you to get past get the out of you pain that has happened along the way. And it doesn't necessarily have to be pain all the time. It could be, happy, familial. It doesn't need to be necessarily negative, when you find out who you are. Because honestly, we're all here for personal growth. So yours is going to be different than mine. Mine's going to be different than the next guy. And the next guy is going to be different from all that. We have to understand that it takes time. And to seek your personal self, you have to really be able to get out of your own way by, like I said, being authentic with who you really are and coming from that energy, that space, deep down inside, to start to heal or get past those things that feel maybe you were tripped up, you didn't get a fair shake, you don't understand what was going on. These are the times where, when you know self, you have those answers. You're not running in pain, lost in a direction of you don't know what, because you've got goals. You've got a pinpoint in mind. Oh, I have to change that. Oh, okay, I can do that. I don't have to change it all, but that is something that I have to contend with. And being real about it, not being, and not being in your truth is something that is going to trip you up when you're finding things in regard to your soul, because it'll only end up in you reopening up the scabs that once hurt you, but you never grew understanding what went on. You just added it to the next layer of pain. And so what we're going to do is honestly show you how to shred away those layers so you can get into the heart, into the core of self, into that energy level, and start expanding it. And once you start expanding it, the pain won't be there. It can't last. If you're expanding your heart to your fullest potential, there's no room for pain in your life. So you quickly become very aware of where that goes and what it's needed for, and shove it on a shelf somewhere. You can always change your direction of growth, but you need to always start from inside to do it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that we have to look inside of ourselves to find that personal growth piece. And what's interesting is the fact that when I was actually looking, I'll show you really quick, when I was, let me change views here just a moment. There we go. So one of the great things about Ruth Brumman's Aureus Astrology software is that her lexicon, which is a bit more of sophisticated than the original Rules for Planetary Pictures book that we work with on a daily basis, Ruth's lexicon is built into the software, so you can see things that are a little bit more positive in nature. It speaks more of the alchemy side of things, that there's the positive and the negative choice, and then what I do in any given moment has an impact on what manifests in the future. You see that here in her lexicon in the software. But when we type in the word, let's say like exploration, and we take a look to see what we can find for this. Let me make sure that is spelled right. There we go. And we look up exploration. There's like one or two things that comes up for exploration. Not a whole lot. And we're talking about like addiction. This has to do with alcoholism. That doesn't sound great. That's not very useful to the astrologer when we're trying to figure out how something is playing in somebody's chart. So we have to use the thesaurus then. What's another way of saying self-exploration? Well, if you think about it, what do we gain as the result of knowing ourselves? Retta, wouldn't you agree that we become very hyper aware of everything that's going on? That the self-awareness piece is really what we're looking for?
It can be. It depends upon how you attain that knowledge of self-awareness. It can be scattered, it can be chaotic, or it can be real neutral and settled down. That's one of those things that is definitely an individual process. People don't always, see things the same way.
So if we run with the idea that this is all about self-awareness, just because we end up with so much more information in the text when we look it up that way. See, like when we type in the word awareness, see this big list that's going to come up. We have all of this new stuff that we did not have before. So the main takeaway here, probably the most significant of everything, of all of these definitions, has to do with Meridian Poseidon. That's where my cursor's at right now. And this has to do with personal outlook, me and knowledge, me and spiritual awareness exhibition. That those are the energies or the manifestations for the meridian, the soul, with the planet Poseidon, which deals with enlightenment, spirituality, truth, all of those really great things. It's like a super Neptune without the negative sides of it. When we look at that midpoint in my personal chart, here's what we get. We have the some circles here in green, and these are just to bring out the points of the midpoint that we're examining right now. I threw Pluto in there with that meridian because it's so close next door to it that we do want to keep that in mind. And also what you'll notice here is that because I have the node sitting right there on that pointer head, that's its own structure that's sort of significant that we do want to keep an eye on. That meridian Poseidon equals node, Pluto Poseidon equals node. So all of that basically just means that my spiritual connections are transforming to me. They are a huge source of profound change in my personal life. When we look at this in my chart to see what's happening with this, well, how is that change defined? How do I find this? Well, let's take a look here. We see some squares that are in green. We have the sun with Hades. So this is a keeper of secrets. This is me with astrology, Uranian astrology in particular. So that's going to be those planets there. If you add that Mercury Saturn with it, that'll speak to long conversations about Uranian astrology and also dealing with people's problems and solving them, because that's the positive end of that Hades energy when it's combined with that Mercury Saturn. When we see this other green square down here on the bottom, that's Cupido with Admetos. That's some other trans-Neptunian planets that deal with groups, that deal with karma. So my spiritual connections, or my own self-awareness and self-exploration, is truly defined by Uranian astrology, and by me doing this work either to help others or whether if it's for the purpose of research and development. Either way, I am looking outside of myself to look for answers, and that's what allows me to resolve that ugly karma piece in my life. Because remember that everything in my life is broken, but also at the same time, I am the only person who has the magic key to make it all go away and to get the life that I really want here. I may have been cheated in the very early years when all of this was first setting up, but I am the only. If it is to be, then it is up to me. That is really true in my life, in my chart. So what we're looking at here is that my own self-exploration is going to be defined as astrology. And then when we look at these items up here in the blue squares, we've got Venus with Neptune, and we've also got that with Apollon. So this has to do with friends. This has to do with that rose-colored glasses and that sense of idealism and sort of magic that I carry in everything that I do. And it's not so much about being emotionally distressed as to why I can't get a date, because that's the least of it. The real issue is bringing that magic and that sense of creativity into all of the development work that I do. I mean, when I get into content writer mode, I even scare myself sometimes. Like, I have no idea where that came from. And like, I look at this and I think to myself, am I some kind of freak that I just sat here for 4 hours to pound this out in a Microsoft Word document, and I'm doing some really fancy graphic design work that sort of defies the mind that you're just not really expecting? When I see stuff like that, I'm just sort of like, wow, that really made me feel good about myself that I could do this. I didn't know that I could. So that, for me, that's my self-exploration, is doing the research with the astrology and seeing how that plays out. So in your own personal chart, what you would do is take a look at that midpoint of Meridian Poseidon to see where that falls, and we can talk about how you can just find some self-exploration, because there's always that person that we meet in life who is a serial monogamist. They jump from one major relationship to another, and this is all they have ever known, is being in a relationship, because the concept of being alone is so terrifying that they would rather, put up with just average or okayish situations for the sake of not having to come home to an empty house. what ends up happening at the end of the day is when this person reaches 35, they have zero sense of who they are. They have no interests or activities or hobbies. They don't know what kinds of music that they like or what kinds of TV shows that they enjoy watching, just because of the fact that they did not take time to get to know themselves. And that's something that's really tragic, because you really only get that opportunity once. And when it passes you by, you're really sort of grabbing for thin air just to see for anything that and hope that it'll stick. So that's another piece of the self exploration puzzle that a lot of us look past, but really getting to know yourself and knowing what your own personal taste and preferences are like, that's really kind of important. And doing so away from other people is the magic in how it's done.
Right. And eventually, you learn to understand that there will be lesser days that you will come, and there's no reason to get ticked off about it. You don't have to start thinking, what did I do wrong? Because people can get to themselves doesn't mean they're healed or they have the ability to heal. They have to take more steps depending upon how many layers. And like you said, at 35, if you've never really created a self-awareness, then you don't know who you are. You don't know what you like. And like you said, you just really are in a place, in a way that means you haven't identified yourself. And it shows. It shows to other people in the way you live, what you say. It shows to folks. Now, not everybody's going to understand that. Some of them are just going to think you're being mean or selfish or blah, blah, whatever. But the reality of it is you're doing what you can do to be okay, even if that, like Ernesto says, even if that means, you're just having someone in the house to come home to. That's not okay. That's going to break you independently before it breaks the other person, because you were trying to go all the distance that you needed to, and the other individual isn't even going to meet you halfway. You've got to know that. You've got to know when your core self matters to you, it has to matter to others as well. And when we start taking a look at ourselves, we definitely want to get secluded, because unless we have a friend that's going to know right or wrong all about you and forgive you anyway, it's easier to do this part by yourself, because you're going to be constantly asking one person or another, hey, what do you think I should do about da-da-da-da? And if that wasn't what you wanted to hear, you go somewhere else. What do you think I should do about da-da-da-da? They keep doing that until they find what they think they want. And then by that time, that opportunity has gone away because you waited too long to apply it. Yeah, it's a killer out there when you're trying to know yourself. And, you maybe have a trauma bond or some kind of contract individual or something in a way that says that you were meant for that individual in a hot second, but not anymore. And those are growing things. When they go away, those are growing things for you to be able to learn from.
And what's really important is this is a skill that's only developed as a result of self-exploration, is being able to use past experiences to gauge from a neutral perspective, so you're able to understand things that happen in the present moment. So like
Yeah.
I had an experience recently where, like, I would have these repeating thoughts over, like, this dream cycle, this pipe dream that would keep repeating itself in my head, some fantasy land that I'm going to end up with, or I'm going to go out on a date with somebody that, I had a one night thing with them. And it was just sort of like a line was crossed and we had a great time many years ago. And realizing, that was a one time thing. That was its own space. Now leave it like that. It's not going to happen again, because when you're able
Right.
to distance yourself from the wishful thinking of, oh yeah, I'd really like to have that for myself because it was a good time, but that's exactly why it manifested like that. Why you didn't end up, becoming an item, is because you don't want to know the heartache and the turmoil that it was going to bring to you. So but for whatever reason, at a contract level, your soul just sort of decided, okay, well, at least I can flush it out of my system and say that I got it that one time, but I'm never getting
Yep.
it again,
Yeah.
and that's it. So, here's a good question. How do you distinguish between genuine spiritual experiences and wishful thinking or self deception in the realm of psychic development?
Okay. It's really simple, and it's going to sound like it's so silly it can't be that simple, but you have to see life in its own way. You can't project what you want to see about life. You have to accept what you see about life. And it doesn't matter what that means. And at some point, if you get to that point where you feel like, I'm okay, I've been working on this, I've been doing my work on self, and I'm going to get out there and try again, and then it doesn't happen, this is how you know it was real. You'll either crumble in a heap of tears and fall away, or you'll look at the information and what that opportunity brought you and be thankful. So the short answer is, if you're not sure whether you're dealing with something that's true intent or not, walk away. And if you feel that in your solar plex, and it's not a thing that's in your head, boo-hoo, I'm walking away, you feel what that is, that will determine whether or not it's the thing that you're trying to create. You have to feel it in that moment. You're going to get it as a gut punch. It may not hurt. It may be butterfly kind of feelings come across to you. But that's the answer. You're feeling the truth, and the other one you're not. The other one you're in your head all about.
And what's important about that is to realize that the sinking feeling that you get, go with that. Don't try to ignore it or turn it off. That's just straight up your body saying, nope, it's not going to happen. Time to move on. And you're wanting to, let your wishful thinking take over and project some other reality that's very far from the truth. And I think I speak from experience when I say that, when man makes plans, God laughs. This is when we try to control the show and we don't get what we want out of life, and things end up being turned upside down.
Yeah, and those are the things that you need to learn from. If they get turned upside down, you want to take it back to why, and then you're going to take it back to how, and then you're going to take it back to its core and fix it and never do it again. And if it is fixable. And that's how you grow. That's how we grow. We learn to walk away from whatever, from injustice, from pain, from ridicule, whatever. We learn to walk away instead of try to engage it. And because it gets you nowhere. It drags you backwards, trying to engage the things you think are in the way. You stay the course with your thoughts, with your energy up, doing what you need to do. Yeah, you're seeing people at the side trying to come at you, but they can't get in your way if you're motivated enough to just keep moving forward with your own self-growth and not taking it personal when it doesn't happen the way you thought it was going to, or someone helps it not happen the way you thought it was going to. Because yes, that is something in a way that we don't design, we have to go with. And if you're capable of going with it without a lot of stress, then you're giving up the need to cry and boo-hoo and, why me? I love this person so much. And that happens. That happens over decades. People continue to hang in there for that one person, that they thought was going to be the salvation of all. Nope, they weren't. They kept you hanging on the line for 45 years, and now, decades later, you're no more than what you were then. And you have to take a step away, or you have to look at you seriously, because if you're still in the development process after 45 years of being friends with someone, it's not true friendship. Maybe you know them, they're an acquaintance or an associate, but they're not a friend. And we learn to understand the truth. We learn to recognize both, when it's something that's good for us and when it's something that's not. And that's what you describe as the sinking feeling. And most definitely people get that. And if they were to go with it, then they would find out that the path they were on wasn't exactly what they thought it was going to be, or someone told them it was going to be. And that's usually the case more than anything else, Ernesto. Usually somebody tells somebody, oh, you do X, Y, Z, you got in touch with self, you fine, go, give me $1,500. No, that's not the way it should work. It all comes from inside, and you said it. You have the key to help you and no others. We all have the key to help self, and when we give up that right, then we're not accepting our destiny. We're not accepting our fate. Now, could it be a part of your journey? Yes, absolutely. But it wouldn't be something necessarily to keep crying about if it's a growing moment. Because if it's a growing moment, eventually you're going to hear an answer. That part may not be okay, but you got an answer. So you can't say anymore you don't know. You can say, well, I maybe know, but I don't want to look at the truth of it. And that's going to be where you work decades to get out of the mode of being the martyr and realize, this isn't getting me anywhere. I'm not, being celebrated in any way to keep helping people over and over and over. And then you realize, oh, well, maybe I just am done with that, or I don't want to do that, or that's just not the key to who I am, and I've got to let it walk away. So it's always a growing experience. There's never a time that something's happening that it's not a growing experience. You have to learn how to walk away when it's not what you want, and or be okay with it, either way you look at it. It's a growing experience.
And the hardest part of it for all of us is going to be detaching ourselves from the things that we really like. I had a conversation with you a couple of weeks ago, and you made some sort of comment about how people in my life were going to be taken away. There were going to be more people that I would lose contact with, and I'm thinking to myself, how the heck is that possible? I don't even have anybody that I really talk to as it is. And then I did an inventory of the structures that exist in my personal life, and then I got that sinking feeling like, oh crap, it's this group of people. And I did not see that one coming. But, it was just sort of like, it felt right, even though it didn't feel great. But I could immediately identify, like, that's the one. And it doesn't make me happy, but I guess it makes sense. And I saw the writing on the walls anyway. So you just kind of confirmed a suspicion that I had. So when... and it's almost like when we have these conversations, I almost wondered to myself, are you throwing curses at me? The fact that you say something and then it happens. But
I've had that. I've actually had that happen. People have actually come back to me and looked at me like, how do you know those things? How did you do that? Or I quickly get labeled a witch because they don't know anything else. So yeah, it happens.
So, and I was thinking about it, so I get it now. It's my time. This has to go away. Now, how am I going to do this? Am I going to go through the motions? Am I going to drag it on for the next 6 months? When am I going to rip off the Band-Aid? And I find, and in recovery, we preach, if not now, then when? So I always live by that. And I thought to myself, okay, so I can extend myself for the next 6 months and be unhappy in the situation that's not really doing it for me, or I can make it go away right now. And I just decided, let's just do that, because growth can happen overnight if we take as big a strides as what we can. And so I decided to, and what happened at the end of the day was actually kind of shocking. That not only did I separate from this group of people that I really thought I connected with, I was more shocked by the fact that everything was just business as usual. Like, nobody really cared. Nobody went through the niceties of like, oh, it was so nice working with you. I wish you the best in the future. I didn't get any of that. Nobody told me to go fly a kite. It was just sort of like, so then what the hell good was any of this for? So, you were all just a bunch of fakers. That it was all just smoke and mirrors for nothing, for show, just to get my money. And, then that made me realize, so now that I know who the real players are in this situation, I am so glad that I made that decision. And my mom noticed, like, immediately right after. She says, Ernie, you feel so much lighter. I don't know what that means, but I can tell that you feel better about yourself.
Aw, yay. That's a nice affirmation, And Mom would know. Mom would be the one that would catch it first. So that's a good affirmation.
Yeah, so it hurts, when we're coming to the pain and realization of, yeah, it's time to break up here, we got to make it go away. But everything that I have been able to do in my personal life as a result of it has really kind of surprised me. And you've even seen some of that work yourself as we've been corresponding over the past day or so. And, these are things that I could never allow myself to do or find the time for. But now it's just sort of like, well, if I'm the one with the magic key here, so let's make it happen.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And, when you make it happen without a selfish motive or being ego-based, then that's where it will succeed. You won't derail in whatever it is you're trying to pursue. When you're coming across in a very genuine, authentic, transparent way, then you will start attracting those people that you need to keep moving up. So, and I was going to ask you, when you said you cut them out, Did you immediately feel okay with that decision, or did you angst about it for a second or two?
It took me probably about an hour to swallow that pill, and then I was okay with it.
Okay, that's perfect. That's beautiful. Because a lot of people could have taken that and ran with it to the sense of, oh, boo-hoo. Why can't I get my way when I see everybody else having theirs? Well, first of all, you don't know that everybody else is having theirs. Let's start right there. And if you're going to boo-hoo, then you're boo-hooing about what you didn't get, or you thought you discovered, and so, yeah, when it takes a while for that, like that little pill, when it takes a while for that little pill to be swallowed, and immediately you have regret, then there's still something more you need to learn from it. If you swallow that pill, you get the bigger picture and can release the pain out of it. That's when you get love. That's when you get unconditional love. And
Yeah.
that's where you want to be with everybody.
And then what was really funny was the fact after I swallowed that pill and I ripped the Band-Aid off, I immediately thought to myself, okay, now let's do a search to see what I can find that's right for me in this moment. That's not this group of people, because this group of people, I was looking for something and it wasn't that. So, but I was getting
Yeah.
kind of close, but it just wasn't that group. So I decided, let me do a search to
You
see
know,
what I can find. And lo and behold, right there on a silver platter, exactly what I needed.
imagine that, huh?
Right. And it was just like, and they were having an event within 24 hours, and it was by my house. So it was just sort of like everything was such a shock. It was like, so there was this other thing that I made it go away, and it didn't feel great. But then I found this new thing that was exactly what I needed, and then on top of that, I went to this new group of people that was exactly what I needed, and I even made genuine connections with people, and exchanged information, which is something that I couldn't say about the others.
Yep, yep, yep. So when you do that, when you say you cut something away, let's say because it made you angry or hurt you in some manner, and now you don't want to be in their presence anymore. So when you pull the plug on that, and it's you're the one that has to pull the plug, and it is going to feel some kind of way on your end, and what you're looking for is basically what you discovered, and that is once you realize, oh, this is not my truth, I gotta go, things lighten up immensely. Like your mom said, you seem lighter. Yeah, you don't have a void, so you're not carrying space for some icky thing to rush right in. Once that was pulled out of your reality, you started to heal. And because you started to heal, you did mend before anything else happened. And therefore, you really won't need that type of people anymore, because it got you where you needed to be now. There's no time and there's no energy to carry it anymore. It's not going to benefit you, and it'll only eventually become a liability. So you really do have to be conscientious about the time you take to cut someone out, and the fact that there may be a big freaking hole right there in that void, and if you don't let spirit in to fill it, then something else is going to rush back in, and you don't need that. You've already learned that lesson. So then my point is when you cut ties, then after your cord is severed, you're not going to feel angst. You're not going to feel regret. You're not going to feel any way other than motivated to move forward, because they're no longer a heavy presence in your life.
Absolutely. And the thing for me was the fact that I realized that I did an inventory of myself of what is it about this group of people that's just not making me happy. And when you follow the logic train of where all of this is headed, I am a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. And then what's worse on top of that is I am manufactured a certain way. So it is just insane and impossible to try to get through to me on these lessons anyway. So like I was just essentially gaslighting myself and creating unwanted gloom and despair over things I truly have no control over. Like I am very
Right.
neurodivergent in that sense. So like you're just speaking to a brick wall at this point. And I decided, like I, maybe not in this life, maybe not even in the next 5 years, you can get through to me on that. But I absolutely just don't have the time or the energy right now to be dealing with these things.
Yeah,
And
I
and
think
for
you're looking closer to 3 to 5.
and for me to realize like it's okay, that I don't get these things, that now is not the time for that. I still have a full life, whatever that means, however long that may turn out
Mm-hmm.
to be. But, it does not have to be right now. And it is okay that I have these defects or issues that I'm working with. I get that I'm running a race with a broken leg, and I'm upfront with people about it. And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't like that, then you can go fly a kite. But that's me, and that's how I operate. It's not for everybody, but if we're really truly meant to work together on things and to go places, then you're willing to go deep with me, because that's just the nature of who I am.
Right, right, right. Most definitely.
So, Veretta, when it comes to the concept, excuse me, how does the concept of intuition connect? I'm sorry, how does the concept of intuition intersect with self exploration and psychic development? And how can individuals create and trust their intuitive abilities?
Right. First thing you have to realize, is there are so many misnomers about what that afterlife or what the space between the here and there is alike and all. When someone's looking at utilizing, they don't even have to be conscientiously chasing the idea of being an intuitive or a medium, and recognizing that we are all capable of psychic intervention. We are all capable of receiving what we need to know through our intuition. And do we all know that? No, we all don't, because a lot of times people will be very intuitive and get premonition, and it's like 99% accurate, and it comes down to certain little issues like religion that won't allow you to utilize that intuitive ability. Yet, and you'll condemn it when you see others, because it's not a part of the doctrine that you share with others. So how do you see yourself? Well, you see yourself as opening up like a book with nothing written on the pages, and using the meditative tools that you would learn to pick you up out of the domain of first and second chakra. You're going to be looking at and dealing on a spiritual level from then on. And what does that mean? That means that if you're true to your intent and you know how to manifest, you can make your life okay by circumventing things that would happen because you allowed your intuition to feed you. Now, is it okay for you to constantly wait for your intuition to give you an answer or tell you you're wrong or give you any input? No. You need to be moving all the time forward without thinking that there's anybody out there, because it's going to be okay and they've got your back. You don't have to spend time worrying about who they are, where they are, and what they come from. Utilizing your intuition let me rephrase that. Not everybody metaphysical are spiritual. There's a lot of people that do know how to make things happen, and they're not nice people in any way. But these are the people that choose to utilize the lower chakras to manifest energy, if you will, that would create their own way. And these are also bullies that once they can't get it, even though it's mapped out to go in a certain direction, they will start making people pay dearly, and I don't mean monetarily, because they know how to throw energy. They absolutely know how. So when you're utilizing your intuition, depending upon how you want to develop it, whether it's just something you've had all along and it's starting to really, it's not that it's not okay, but it's getting your attention that more is happening, or you're not really wanting to acknowledge that it's there and you don't want to go in intuition because it scares the hell out of you that you have no developed foundation to say I'm okay. And I'm not talking about just religion for foundation. I'm talking about spirituality, and that makes a whole lot of difference. If you're open-minded enough to understand sometimes things can't go your way to help you grow, that what you didn't get now means you're going to get 10 times better in the future. You just have to be able to walk away from what you didn't get now and know that's a part of your code. Your soul is telling you it's going to be okay. And when you get in the habit, and I mean, just like talking to me today, when you get in the habit of conferring with your spirit, with your guides, your spirit helpers, and they're quick to say an answer, and they give you an answer on a matter that, well, I didn't see that one coming. That's intuition. That's you utilizing your intuition in a way that's going to help you, benefit you, or get you farther along on your road to self-discovery. It really is a unique experience per individual. So we have to take a look at, well, maybe that was just a practice run, and next time I'll be okay. And really, honestly, if you can look at it like that instead of, oh, boo-hoo, I didn't get, well, why the hell, they're so mean, you know, and all these excuses and finger pointing, then you're owning yourself, your own life, and your own liability. So if you can get the hell out of your way, you're fine. And what I mean by that is don't talk yourself into believing that, A, it's not okay to do what you're doing, if religion is in there, B, that you're special and you're like no one else, because everybody, don't do that, everybody else has intuition. And 3, you're really in an open, loving form to be able to accept what is given to you by Spirit and take that and walk away versus ignore Spirit and do it yourself and then cry because it didn't happen, whatever the it is, didn't happen the way you wanted it to. So I know full fact that, you know, people get my information and they get messages and they don't know what to do with it. They just don't. And it's not on me to make it happen. I'm just a messenger. And when you realize your intuition is feeding you, you'll be just a messenger too. Or that also is how you get information about self. That's where your self-discovery then comes back. And you need to look at the things that you have to do, even the bad things. I don't want to brush my teeth. Go brush your teeth. You have to do that for it to be a complete system, and all the unknowns or the scary stuff can go away. You have to know you and how strong you are to be able to deal and develop a sense of reality when you're working around people like that. And it just makes it a little bit better. You have to fine tune like crazy, but it makes it a little bit easier for you to understand what's your intuition and what is maybe somebody on a lower level talking to you, you know, trying to get you to go the other way. And you have to know that the voice of intuition is always calm, it's reasonable, it never degrades, it never puts you on a guillotine effect, do it or die. It doesn't do anything other than support you in a positive manner. And if you understand that and start getting the negative and tell the negative to go away, because that's what will derail you, tell the negative to go away and go further on with this purpose that you're creating, or that you don't know what's going on. You just allow your intuition to carry you down the road. Eventually you'll understand why, and you'll see the bigger picture if you don't give up and go away because you're not getting what you want right now. Spirit always has your back. There's never a time that you don't have a spirit guide or someone that's in heaven watching out for you. We all have those. So it's really up to us not to defy what we should be being thankful for in the spirit realm, and learning to understand that do it yourself is not always easy. It may be something you have to continue to go over the steps over and over until you are sure that you beat this to death and you have nothing more to gain, and then you can let it go. And whatever it is that catalysts you onto that dimension, you let that go too, because it won't be positive for you anymore. It'll be an anchor or a weight that you have to decide you don't want to deal with, even though it may hurt a little bit, and you don't have to be mean about it. Anytime you're told it's time to cut loose, you don't have to be mean about it. You have to be okay that it's time to move forward, and that tether is holding you back. So be grateful you had that tether, cut it off, move it loose, and move it. I don't care if it's family, ex-partner, you know, your best freaking friend that you've had back in the day. I don't care who it is. If they're no longer beneficial to you, i.e. they put you, there's so much weight on you to carry, you don't get anything else done, then you'll be grateful that it goes. And that's also part of the ego, is being grateful that it let go, because it doesn't have to compete with all those other people going on. Now it's got direct access to you. So again, you have to understand, spirit will never degrade you. Spirit will never show out how you're wrong. Oh, I told you so, ha, ha, ha. Spirit will never do that. So if that's what people have going on in their head, they do not have a connection to spirit. They definitely do not understand themselves. And it's going to be a long day before they finally get it, if they've had opportunity over and over and over. And that's where we have old souls. That's where we can say, yeah, I kept coming back over and over and over to do X, Y, Z, or I just kept coming back, ha, ha, ha. Well, you know what? That's not funny, because being an old soul meant you didn't get it back in the day. So you had to have so many tries and attempts that you probably have a great working response with your spirit by this point in time. But because it didn't go the way you thought it was going to, you're no longer wanting to lend any energy to it. And that's where you suffer. You have to follow through with anything that you want to manifest, even in times where it doesn't feel okay, because if you can manifest it, that means it can come to you. If you can't manifest it, that means you're not ready yet, you're not there, you're never going to be, whatever. It means that you just keep practicing and you get out of your own way. You get out of your head and just allow the feelings to develop, and allow, meditation to carry you in such a way that you're starting to get answers to questions you don't have answers, questions you don't even have yet, or have never had answers to, and it's going to be a quick fix to you feeling okay or whole, because you can look at what's happening for you and go back and see why you had to go through what you went through back in the day, and shove it in a shelf, cut it off, bubble it up, do whatever you're going to do to let that no longer in any day trip you up. You're going to be okay, and you know you're going to be okay. You just have to let spirit guide you instead of ego.
Now, for the next few minutes here, I just want to switch gears for a moment for everybody who's been listening to our show about the process of self exploration and how this lends into your own intuitive experiences. I'm going to pull up Veretta's chart here on the screen right now. So you'll see that on our YouTube cast. And when we ask Veretta's chart the question about, how is self-awareness defined in your personal life, what you end up finding is all of these colored different squares that I've had. You've got some orange ones and you've got some blue ones. So the orange is very simply how you benefit from your thinking. And this is a huge part of you and your life. And, when we break down that axis point a little bit more, this speaks to all of your stuff with like the psychic and the spiritual and all of the healing work that you do, that this is a huge constant in your life as far as like how your own self-exploration is defined. But believe it or not, lo and behold, you work in metaphysics and healing and advising and all of those kinds of things. So the question here becomes then, when you were first sort of coming of age, we'll say, like, and you were learning about all of this and this was being shown to you, and keep in mind that for everybody who's listening, in those years when Veretta was learning about these concepts, that was still considered crazy people talk for the most part in society. So you didn't really have people that you could talk to or friends that were into that kind of thing, unless if it was like some really freaky, like Shirley MacLaine cultish kind of thing. So it just wasn't well handled. So Veretta, you were being shown a lot of different things in your own formation in the beginnings of when all of this started. And I'm sure that you just could not pull yourself away from it, because everything you did that you were trying to refuse it, it was just being shown to you again more and more. So the question then becomes, when somebody's being shown something, like, how do you know what's authentic, if this is for you or if this is just a distraction?
It's hard. That's a good concept, and it's a good question. You don't always know. And when then a series of events happen to you, for you, or about you, you have to be able to go to someone or something and validate those experiences. So I was very lucky, and I mean, whatever, God giggles, right? I was very lucky to have a teacher that saw in me what I did not know at the time. And I didn't start pursuing it literally. My mom drugged me along to the class, and it ended up being a very, it just took me the rest of the way. I didn't know it initially that he saw in me what I didn't know. I was just trying to heal from my own tragedy in my family, and I was just going along for the ride. All right, Mom, if you want to go, let's go. And eventually she stopped, and I kept going, and he kept training me, and he would give me more tidbits or more information about what I needed to know. But he never crossed the line on, I don't know, telling me I need to worry about something or think things through. Or he always ever came back from a personally affirmative individual. So he didn't he didn't go at people like he was the great guru, and if they were told they were mediums, then they were. He went at the people and give them opportunity to see who they were and then help them grow in that direction. And he told me once at some point, and at that point I still really did not know what that concept meant. He said, you can do it all, but you shouldn't. You should pick one category and give it your all and be okay. Well, have you met me? That's not what I do. If I have access or I have ability, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna temper it, and that's just what I've learned over the last 35 years of being in metaphysics. Is that to know that this is not a special thing that I do. I've trained many, many others. I don't even remember how many at this point to do what I do. Whether they went all the way and got it right or not, that wasn't on me. Whether they, became big gurus and now have cults, I don't care. That still wasn't on me. I was doing what I was told. And so then the answer to the question of how you start having experiences that you can't believe are real. And until you go to that self and center, you're not going to understand how to take this information and run forward with it. So back in the day when I was just beginning, and I wasn't that old into this, maybe 3 years. And I've told this story many times. Going down the road one day, had my 13-year-old daughter in the back seat, my husband at the time, driving to Reno, which is a 2-hour drive from where we lived at the time. And in the course of going there, we were just driving, and all of a sudden, we're on the highway, so we were doing 80 miles an hour, and or whatever. And I see this man and this little girl walking hand in hand, and immediately I get this flash of, oh my God, he's going to hurt her. He's going to kill her. And how he did it. And I started melting down. I was going crazy. Oh my God, it's going to hurt her. And finally, my husband at the time said, would you shut the up? You're scaring the hell out of the daughter in the back seat. And so I straightened myself up. We went on to do what we were going to several hours later. And it was totally not really a thought in my mind, but I started thinking, where was it that I saw that? Where what was that? And we come around the corner, and right where we saw it were everything you can imagine, from corners to sheriff's department. And he did indeed do exactly what I saw. So now I am melting down. I saw that guy. So I made my husband pull over to the very first phone we could get to, and I called 911, and I said I was on the road earlier and saw a little man with a little girl, and now there's, is she all right? And the dispatcher said, no, ma'am, she's dead. Now I'm really freaked out, because could I have stopped that? Should I have stopped that? What am I going to do? And then she said, how did you know what you were? And that hit dawned on me, no, you can't be going around telling everybody that happens, because they're going to look at you, like you said, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. And she did. The dispatcher wanted to know a whole lot more information about me, which I give it because there was nothing I did wrong. But then I get home, and I call my mentor, and I say to him what happened, and I ask him immediately why. Why did I have to have that experience? He said, because you need to shut it down, and you need to learn how to, and those are the reasons why. You have to live here on Earth still. You can't be solid, both feet in spirit, and actually have a reputation, any kind of influence by your personal self. I wanted out. I didn't think that was a blessing at all. And I said, take it back. He said, Byretta, first of all, I can't. I didn't give it to you. And it was obviously meant for you to grow, so you have to figure it out. Well, sure enough, it was what he said. Why did I doubt? I needed to learn that I have the ability to draw on any energy at any time, and that will dictate how my spiritual guidance will come out, either in visions or healing or whatever, forecast. I get to that point to where nothing is surprising anymore, because I've pretty much seen it all. And if I didn't see it personally, I've seen it through someone else's eyes, because I was reading for them. And it's gotten me to the point overall to be very patient with people, with somebody that really has very little knowledge and really would think they'd like to know, but they don't. And I have to be very patient, because for me, it's like, you don't even know what you're talking about right now. Be quiet. And I can't usurp their authority of learning. So once in a while, I go around not saying anything at all, and then get my butt chewed out, because I'm not communicating with anybody. But when I do that, it's because I need that space, and to continue to create and manifest the way I do, I have to be able to recharge my batteries. So it's good that people understand that they may have to go through a thing or two before they really understand what they're all about. And I'm not even going to call it a gift, because like I said, everybody has intuition. It just depends upon how you develop it. I guess if you want to call the development part a gift, you could, because it doesn't always work out the way you think it should. And when you finally get to the point to where, all right, it's time to make something happen, I got to be real flexible, because it may not. And, plan B and C and D have to be obtained in case plan A doesn't work out. And like I said, you have to be here, so you can't be in spirit all of the time. You can walk in one world with one foot in and one foot out, but that's to the extent where you need to be all the time. And that will guarantee, A, your safety, and the fact that, anything that can come to you, if you're all about spirit and doing without physical, it's going to grab you like a tornado and run with it, because now it has a working pawn that had no foundation, and it's pretty much a good guess that it's not going to be a positive energy that's coming from that percentive. And those are the things you have to do. Protocol has to be engaged when you're dealing with spirit, because there are so many levels of spirit. You don't know what you're opening a gate to if you can't correlate what you're feeling and what you're doing at the time and understand what's good and what's not.
On that note, we are going to take a call here from Patricia at area code 216. We'll catch up with you in just a few minutes. And I just want to let everybody know that we are going to change up our structure for our reading format here on the podcast. So here's how that's going to work out. So I will be running a timer, and Beretta, you will hear this sound. Here it is. You will hear that sound at about 90 seconds.
I didn't hear it.
Okay, let me do it again. Did you hear it now?
Nope, got nothing. Nope.
Okay, that's freaky. That's not supposed to happen. Can you hear this?
Yeah, well, you know what? Just one of those times where don't stress about it. Something else may find out, so we'll work on that.
So I will work on that. I have no idea what that's all about, but I will chime in at 90 seconds to let you know that we're sort of running into time. I'm going to give you basically a 2 to 3 minute period to do a general, and I will chime in with my thoughts. You may also ask me questions during that 2 to 3 minute period, just to kind of get an overview, and then we will each have 1 minute of follow-up to add some more additional thoughts on that. So let's go ahead and give this a try, and we will catch up with Patricia from area code 216 here. Hello, Patricia. Can you hear us right now? Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Welcome. Patricia, you're on the show right now, and I do have your chart up. So, Beretta, what do you have for Patricia on a general about exploring your inner self?
Well, when you look at who you are, then you're looking in general about how you operate in the world, how you think of yourself. So if you're not feeling happy with yourself, that's what you're going to see manifest. If you are pretty content and happy with yourself, then that's what you're going to see. That's what you'll manifest. You have to carry that energy, however, to continue to allow that where you are, the level of spiritual contact is pretty much strong enough for you that all you need to do is allow it to grow. And you already have seen signs, and I'm hearing you've already been told things you should do, and you've done it, and it worked well. And the same with the other side. You either didn't have input, or you didn't, really weren't sure what was the right ways to go, and you made decisions. And even though probably the little voice inside your head's going, no, don't do that. You made your decisions and realized then, well, I didn't manifest out anything I wanted to have grow, so let's don't do that again. You're in your house. You're in your ability to control. You're in, and when I say your house, I mean your body, your spiritual space, the area you live in. It doesn't matter about the concrete, brick, stick house. I mean your space. So grow what you've got. Grow what you know. Grow what you hope to become, because that way you'll know whichever direction you're taking, you've got a solid foundation under you. Therefore, you're going to be okay. When things happen that are not okay, those are growing things. You didn't necessarily have to bring those on. They were just a little bit extra to help you continue refining and realizing that as you go down the road, you really do have help. You just have to ask for it. And it's as simple as, just referencing an emotion and asking with a question, without using words, asking with the question of your higher self, okay, which way do I go? And then taking that information and running with it like you're supposed to. Sometimes you can't. And, the reality of it is sometimes spirit gets a little overzealous, giving you all this great information. And they know you're 2 or 3 steps away from that, but it gives you a goal. And it gives you something to create foundation on so that you can continue to meet that goal. And you'll have it because you're a manifestor, Patricia. You're absolutely capable of doing what you need. Okay, so I would say on the times that you ask and you need input and you get it, take that direction. And if you don't, just know that Spirit needs you to grow a little bit more and you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Okay, all right. So, Veretta, what I'm picking up on this chart is from a general reading about like the whole self-exploration intuition piece that we've been discussing in today's show. There's a lot of potential here for like mental depression, like just not great place mentally. Like this shows up in multiple places in the chart right now. That this is like that there is the potential to like really heal from a lot of mental damage and distress. But there's also the huge potential for all of that to just sort of take over. And I think this is what Beretta is referring to, is the fact that, the state of mind can just go off the deep end unexpectedly and you didn't ask for it, where you're suddenly ruminating about things that happened a long ass time ago that have absolutely zero bearance on what's happening in the present moment. So that this is going to be, I think, the number one obstacle is learning to distance like yourself from that space in the mental energy that I don't want this. This is not me right now. And that this is also something that you do have the potential to heal from. I think that the intuition piece is really big right now, that there's really like some gateways that are open for that. But I think the key word more than anything else has to do with faith. And what I mean by that is that faith in spirit, faith in yourself, faith in higher knowing, by just looking outside of yourself and creating that personal change, that this is going to be how you get the things that you want. I see that there is a potential to sort of be reckless, to be lazy, to take the low road, to do what's comfortable and to do what's easy. And those actions will have the potential of definite backfiring and not getting the things that you want out of life. But this is one of those things where you really do have the ability and the power to create some distance and separation, to detach from the conditions that are going on right now, that it doesn't have to necessarily be this way. So those are sort of the main standouts for what I see as far as the personal self-exploration is going on in this chart. And also the fact that this is a really strong intuitive period where if you want to look past yourself and look to spirit for answers, those are all going to be there, and the quality of the information that you get will truly be defined by how strong your faith is in that higher knowing, because that is, again, that faith is really how you're going to pull yourself out of a lot of the mental funk that you're experiencing. Veretta, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, that's definitely right on as far as the temperate mode that doesn't need to happen but is. So, Patricia, if you're kind of getting mixed signals or you're conflicted with what you're getting, then try again. And like I said before, feel it. Don't look for the answer, feel it. And that will tell you really what page you're on at any given time. You can float. Patricia, you're very capable of getting on and amending what you need to do or adjusting what you have or who you are to the area that you're in. And so this is where it'll grain you and wear you out if you're not aware of who's in control of that voice that's talking to you. And, either change it, put an end to them, tell them, shut up, don't talk to me like that, or you have no purpose or permission to be in my space. And you will grow exponentially for following your intuition explicitly even if it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, because they know you need to go, whether it's a time frame, a learning thing, or ready yet. You need to go a little more time before you actually are put in a position to understand what you're dealing with. So don't despair when things start to go south. It just means there's another opportunity coming, and the only way that it can happen is if they grow through the pain of losing it, or the idea or thought that it's going to go away.
And then the last thing I'd like to add on here is the fact that if you feel like you need professional help or services, please get it. Because this is one of those things where there is the potential for you to really sort of heal yourself, but you may have to look outside of yourself, and that you don't have all of the answers at any given moment. That professional services might be able to do it for you. I really feel like that the connection to women in particular, that these are going to be the players as far as like people you would hire or people you would talk to, that are going to be of the most benefit to you, more so than men, I would say. But I feel like that there's a pretty strong female who's going to come into your future, who's going to give you some clues or some information about how to prepare that mental space for longevity's sake, and so that you don't have to keep going down this path again, because this is something that I think is hindering your personal growth, is because it's just sort of like it gets in the way of doing the things that you'd really like to focus on, and that it's all very solvable. There is a solution to this, and I think the time is now for that.
Well, thank you both. I just need to get out of this gospel rescue mission, which is just so cultish and just so constricted.
Mm-hmm.
And applying to jobs online, the ones I can, finally get to, but also I'm focused on being a house and pet sitter on the site, but the days, it's only like a few days. If I can get like a couple of weeks at a time consistently, because Las Cruces is not my home, and I can just be house and pet sit in Albuquerque, but just have a place of my own, even renting a room south of Albuquerque. I felt I was being guided to Los Lunas, but then, reading, I asked questions, on the thread, and they're saying, well, it's a mix, don't bother, because, it's a lot of drugs and crime and so on and so forth, and it's, well, I'll just keep checking, but I need to get up there and see, and this place here in this gospel rescue mission, they want to keep, tight reins on you.
Yeah.
And, but, like I said,
do you know how to use a pendulum?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to get a map. I want you to put a star on where you are, and I want you to ask that pendulum, not right now, but soon, I want you to ask that pendulum to give you clear direction. You have to be able to understand what clear direction is as a yes or no or maybe. So if you haven't tested that part with your pendulum, then do that now, or do it prior to even asking the question with the map, so you can determine what's a yes, a no, and a maybe. And go with that intuition that whatever direction it's taking you, you can draw a line on it. Even if there's multiple cities, just start working that line until you get to where you know you want to be.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. But I got out of Cleveland, Ohio, so I definitely am thankful I did that, because it was just heavy and just negative. But yeah. Thank you both for the reading. I'm trying to think what else. My Medicare, that's what I'm concerned about. When you turn 65, it's mandatory, you sign up. But my part was for the pharmacy, for medication and B and C, I'm trying to find, help with paying that. And Medicaid here, from where I went to Human Services, the clerk said they wouldn't be able to cover me. But I got some hope for info, so I'm just wanting to get myself, covered there as well. Do you see, do you sense anything?
That won't be a problem. And so, would that be one of the things that is in her chart that
That's causing
you can
distress.
pinpoint down? Yeah.
Let me take a look here.
It's the way she's thinking. It's the way Patricia's thinking, and I'm not sure if it's processing thought that isn't going to work, or like I said, she's maybe not sure how or what she should do. So that's why I suggested pendulum.
Well, like for me, the big standout is stillness of mind, meditation, that type of practice. That I don't know how to describe the symptoms, but I know that that's the fix. That if we're going to talk about like shifting the alchemy of this chart, the thing that's gone awry, the thing that's not working out is, the mental energy, and so how you would morph that or fix it is let's focus on like more, peace of mind, like meditation, anything that'll cause stillness in that sense, that's going to be what creates the energy that really causes this to shine.
Yes. And remember, this is a wave. This is only a wave, and eventually this wave is going to calm down, and you'll be fine, and that includes your mind. But I would definitely get a little bit of help at this point. If you're not seeing what services are available in that area, then reach out to either the last place you were or look down the line and establish where you're going next, and that will be an address for you.
Yeah,
don't worry about it. You'll be okay with your care.
Or just find an insurance broker. They know everything and everything when it comes to insurance, so they would be able to help you out with that. And it's a free service too.
Good.
Okay. All right. I'll get some remote jobs, and at least I'll have that income and do the house sitting.
There you go.
All right. Well, it was great to have you on the show. Thanks for calling, Patricia. We'll catch up with you real soon. Until next time.
Thank you.
Many blessings. Okay, and we do have a caller from area code 215, but I don't see your hand is up, so I do want to thank you for coming out and joining us today. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share. We will be back with you guys next Sunday. We're going to close out the show for this morning, and thanks so much for everybody for a great first episode of DIY Soul, and we will catch up with you guys next Sunday, again at 11 a.m. Arizona Standard Time. We'll be here for 1 hour to take your questions, to do general readings about next week's subject, whatever that may be. I have to take a look at the schedule. Thanks again, Veretta, for coming out and joining us. I always love sitting here with you and talking about life, the universe, and everything.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
And remember, for all other things Uranian Astrology, be sure to check out link.tree/celestial_intersections. That has all of our links right there. I don't have a website. That's still down at the moment. I think I have a Facebook page. You can find Veretta at verettavision.com. And we also have a link to our menu of services and everything else that we do for you guys. Remember, you can pick up that front of the line pass for $10 or 3 for $25. Remember to get those purchased and in advance and reach out to customer service so that way we can get you taken care of here on our next show. Thanks, everybody, and we will catch up with you guys real soon. Until next Sunday, until next time, good luck and Godspeed.